Turn it on. Hey, welcome back to Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I'm your host, Sir Everett Broshears. I'm coming to you from the mobile studio yet again. Current lifestyle, work demands, things like that. It's going to keep me in my vehicle pretty much for this. It's not as easy to go home and record at the home studio. So, all right. Well, today's discussion is on high value people, or being a high value person. I usually relate a lot of what I talk to about relationships or towards relationships, but relationships is a facet of human being a human being, and it's very easily relatable because everyone, pretty much, is looking for or is currently in a relationship in some capacity. We're all in relationships if you really look at what they truly are. Now, it's just, most people are focusing on the intimate, romantic type relationships and trying to find the right partner, or, longing for their partner to come around to their way of thinking and or their preferences of being treated. So, I would say that the majority of the conversations that I have been privileged to, and when I say privileged, there's just people sharing where they're at, what they think, how they feel, that kind of thing. They've given me a privilege of sharing that with me. It seems like everyone is looking for, or the narrative around it, not the narrative, I'm sorry, the context of the conversation is typically one that's it's like a lottery thing. They're waiting for luck to strike for them, so they find the person that they want to be with. Now, again, this is not exclusive to romantic, intimate relationships. This is any and all relationships that we could possibly be involved in. So, with this, if you wait for the lottery, you're going to be waiting for a long damn time. How you can tell if you're waiting for the lottery is that you're not doing work on yourself. And yeah, you might go to the gym a little bit. You might, do a little reading or something on, when you have free time. That's good, but that's not what I'm talking about. If it's not transformational work to bring you closer to the person that you wish to find, then you are waiting for the lottery. No, you have to put in work. Right? So I always tell people, don't wait for the one, be the one. Be the person that you wish to date. We attract things into our lives. We attract people into our lives. Our psychologies line up. So if you're up to something, you're developing yourself and you're working on yourself in such a way that you are getting closer to the kind of person that you would like to date, then you're going to start attracting people into your life that either are on or within that pursuit or desire that pursuit and may need a mentor or some sort of guidance, or that they have already developed that. So, yeah, there's also another piece to it, which is you may find a person that's up to something, and you're likely going to find somebody who's up to something that might match you a little bit better when you get involved in training and development. When you get out and start doing things that help you connect with other people that are of like interests. So, I have made a declaration, somewhat recently, that the people that involve themselves in my life that have relationship values that affect my emotional state are required to be up to something. They have to. They have to be up to something to develop. Now, wherever they are in the process is completely individualized. Some of them are looking for something, like what to get involved with, and others are already, like, they know what they want. It's just a matter of when they can execute upon it. So again, when I say this, I mean all relationships that have emotional impact. That's close friends. It's everything imaginable that actually has an emotional direction back towards me. Hell, even the business that I'm working with right now as my consulting company, we've made more of a long-term agreement. And that long-term agreement actually is completely predicated on their growth. they have to be up to something. They have to be working on developing themselves. Otherwise, we will only work together for a short period of time. But we've made it a very clear declaration that is exactly what our relationship is. They want to make more locations, more clubs, and they want me to be a big part of that. So I'm happy to be there. So and it has an emotional impact because it has to do with my financial position. It has to do with the direction that I've chosen to grow my company in. It has to do with a lot of that, which all of it has to do with coming back to the emotional state. So with that, becoming a high value person, high value people are the ones that are up to something. They develop themselves in multiple places, and they develop themselves well in multiple places. They're notably good at what they do when those places, or when those types of attributes come to the surface. Whatever it is, I exercise regularly. To give a kind of an idea overall, as of right now, and ever since October 28th, October 28th of 2021, I have worked out twice a day. My average is actually 2.3 times a day, because there's multiple days there inside of this that I was actually doing 3 times a day, and 7 days a week minimum. But I have worked out 7 days a week, all except for 2 of those weeks, since October 28th, and is now January. Late January. So, yeah. Well, it's easy to lose track of time whenever you're really doing a lot. So, exercise regularly, singing lessons. Actually, tonight I go and interview a dance instructor. Specifically, I was originally looking for West Coast swing, but I found an East Coast swing instructor. I don't know the difference. It is a new discipline to me. So I'm interested, and I'm actually very excited about getting into this place and doing this. I just develop, right? I do take courses with the SBA, it's a Small Business Alliance, or Association. I always refer to it just as SBA, and that is with the Tampa College, UCF, sorry, UFC. Yeah, so I'm putting it out there, right? So I want to develop myself further in business and find my blind spots, try to accelerate past the hardships if I can, not miss the value in the lesson, but to offset that by having a training that helps me develop, so that I don't have to go through the hardships or the things that could take my business out. So the business side, I'm busy. Now again, this is the high value aspect, is that you're doing stuff, you're up to something. Bought a house. I do a lot of work around that. I'm handy in that way, so I do a lot of the work myself. It's therapeutic and I enjoy it. And it is, one more thing that's a skill set. There are things that I have to do with my home that are the first time, so I do seek out mentorship or guidance or some way of educating myself around doing that properly. So it's just constantly in the pursuit of something. I do read regularly. I'm constantly in a psychological and academic type of development. I love learning. I'm very curious about things. So I'm giving the perspectives that are typically associated with high value people. I'm not saying that as an arrogant statement. It is the definition of what those people are, up to something. Doesn't mean that there's a significant amount of money in the bank account. It's who you be, not just what you have. Because you can have a significant amount of money in the bank account, but it's an inheritance, right? Or you did get lucky in some specific area. I knew a guy that he was responsible for bringing synthetic marijuana, according to his statement. He was responsible for bringing the synthetic marijuana into the state of Florida many years ago, and he had made himself incredibly wealthy. But when I met him, he didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And when this after the fact. And the reason for that is that if that be true, and I did not verify it, although I did ask people that have known him for a while that are trustworthy to me or honest to me, they did say that that is true. So if it is risen, the point is if he did, then he didn't have the maturity to be able to manage that kind of money, and he got himself into a financial issue, even though he had more money at that point than he had before. So using that as an example, just because you have a significant amount of money in your bank account does not mean that you are a high value person. Again, that's not a it's not a guarantee, right? I'm not downing people for it. I'm not giving them props for it. I'm just stating that it is easy to fall victim to the ideas that, oh, because of this, I don't need to develop. You don't have to. You really don't. But if you want to find things that bring more satisfaction to your life, work on you. Don't wait for it to show up. Don't wait for the person to show up in your life. My experience of that is where somebody would meet me in a dating scenario, especially going back several years, where they would find specific things about me very appealing, whether it's I'm articulate, or thoughtful, or psychologically, like informed, emotionally, educated or knowledgeable, whatever it is, and then see what felt like unearned value in their eyes, where I felt kind of awkward at the extent that the person would seem like they were kind of demonstrating some degrees of desperation to have me in their life, where you see that things seem a little off kilter, where the person is probably more excited than what seems warranted whenever they would see me, or be involved in some way, or emotionally missing specific things. Like if I would say or do something and emotionally they completely missed it, because they'd have that emotional distraction or psychological distraction or both. Again, not faulting them for that. It's more of they would see something in me that would be potentially the thing that would rescue them for the perils of their own life, or the thing that would complete their life. Again, just to continue to make sure that I reiterate this because of the potential accusations or thoughts that I might be coming across as a braggart or arrogant about something, conceited, that's not where I'm coming from. It's an observation. It's people finding that in you can find that they may not want to work on it themselves. My goal when I meet that or see that is to encourage people to develop themselves. And again, this is not coming from they're wrong about anything. This is the purpose of this channel. Growing up in the wild of suburbia is about trying to create insights in areas that we can develop ourselves, so that even if I may not be right in my direction for your life, doesn't mean that I'm not right in my direction for my life. Trials and tribulations, right? You got to try things out and have errors with them, that correct those errors and get more effective at it, more proficient. That's always my goal with this. So when I do meet people that have those areas of inefficiencies, if you will, or lacking maturity, again, that's not an insult. Lacking maturity just simply means that the person's not developed there. We just happen to have that in our colloquial repertoire to make fun of people or to use that as a derogative statement. I'm not. I mean more of like the innocence of ignorance is the innocence of immaturity, which is the same as a child's innocence. We just don't like to give adults that kind of forgiveness. It's like we hold it against them that they're not developed there. Even though we have in ourselves, every single one of us have something in us, areas of our maturity that we have not developed. And we expect people to give us forgiveness for that whenever it's exposed. but yet we just don't seem to want to forgive other people when the same situation shows up, when something about their maturity is exposed to being, less developed. Now, it's interesting to me that we will also give children that forgiveness if you're fairly mature. You'll give a child forgiveness for that, for not being developed. You're not going to yell at a child because they didn't balance a checkbook, because they don't have the checkbook, right? You're not going to yell at them because they just don't demonstrate adult maturity in situations. You help them understand what the situation is and then how to navigate that. It's part of the parenting process, adult-to-child process. But we don't do that for other adults. We shut them down and think, you know what, this person is less valuable, which is the opposite of a high value person. They're less valuable and they're less of a resource opportunity for me. If you were to take out the emotion and just make it, the cognitive aspect or the psychological aspect of it, we're going to look at them and say, you got less resource for me. So therefore, I'm not going to associate as much with you. That's the value system structure that we work with typically. We want to break free of that. If you don't want to be that person, or you're aware that that is a mechanism that you think with and you want to change it, then start looking at people in these scenarios where their maturity shows up and it turns out that they're less mature than your expectations or yourself, and usually your expectations are set by yourself, by your own abilities, or somebody close enough to you that you can measure that against somebody. If you start looking at those individuals as they're not very well developed here, and how can I help develop them but also protect myself from damage? Because if you start trying to help develop them and you get damaged in the process, you're less likely to want to continue to contribute to them. So you put yourself in a position that you can save yourself while helping another. You don't want to sacrifice yourself helping another, because that's the end of the game if you do. Right? You either physically won't be there to help them further, or emotionally you're gone, or whatever it is, whatever aspect it is that's challenged usually leaves, or becomes guarded and reserved and blocked off from that person. So keep yourself at a distance enough you can support somebody when their maturity shows up to be less than or lacking, if they are. If they show up and they have a higher degree of maturity, then asking for mentorship is a pretty simple question. I noticed that you're really good at this. Would you mind helping me get better? Give me some insights. That's the first step of mentorship. Why wouldn't you want that? A lot of people are happy to share, especially if it's a skill set that they've worked hard to develop. But you have to understand what they're going through. Don't just blatantly go around asking everybody you see something. One, you may not be able to facilitate the agreement that you create with the person for mentorship. Because you may very well say, you know what, I want to be mentored by, 7 days a week. I want to be mentored in multiple hours every day. You're likely not going to be able to keep up with that level of learning, especially with the rest of life's demands. So don't overcommit, because you're going to burn mentors. Don't do that. I would start off with one at a time for a limited amount of time to find out your capacity, but don't let it overexcite you so that you jump into multiples. It's a slow progress, but before you know it, you will have a knowledge of what level you're able to commit to so that you can develop yourself further. This is becoming a high value person. You'll find that if you are single, you're more likely to find a date. Or somebody of intimate romantic interests. If you're in a business world and you're trying to develop yourself so that you can get further, you want to grow a company or something, this is a perfect process for doing that. You find that these businesses that are good, like a business owner that is good at what they're doing, their business usually tells you that simply by the looking at it and seeing how the business is working. There's all kinds of different relationships that you're currently involved in that you can pull mentorship from and become more of a high value person. And then vice versa. Not vice versa, but you can help develop others and be that person that is requested to support others. All right. That's pretty much it for today. Now, becoming a high value person is just to first become aware of where you want to be and then who you are right now and what you need to be in order to get there. So, all right, that's it. So, share the video with the people in your life, especially whoever shows up in your mind or who you're thinking about when you're watching this. That would be a perfect person to share the video with. It could break the ice so the conversation can start. Again, you can always discuss the merits of my conversation. You can talk about how either right or wrong you feel that I am, or add to what I may have not said to help break into those conversations with these people in your life. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a great way to get things started. Sometimes you do need an outside influence to get those things going. Oh, beautiful way of starting something. Oh, so share, like the video if you did. You know, it does help me work with the YouTube algorithm so that we can get this video out to more people. You will continue to see me developing in this area and many or others. So why not join me in that process? Now, don't wait for the person to show up. That's a lottery concept. Be the person that you would like to date. Be the person that you would like to have a business involvement with. Be the person that you'd like the community to experience, right? That's the first stage. I'm not saying fake it till you make it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying declare it and then work through. Get there, right? So you don't need to convince people you're something that you're not, but you can let people know you're in the process. So, all right, with that, get up to something, get up to it with me. Let's create that powerful life that leaves a legacy. Until next time, I am your host, Sir Chad Everett Brochures, and this is Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. We'll see you next time.